Well, preseason is officially ruined. Will Howard got hurt, and he's going to be out for 3 weeks with a fractured thumb. Like, who else were we more excited to see for these preseason games than Will Howard? He's a big name rookie quarterback. Not only is he new in that he's a rookie, but also plays the most important high profile position in football. So there's a natural, all eyeballs want to be on this guy to see how he does in his first NFL action. But also the fact, too, he could be the future of this Steelers team. And this was going to be his dress rehearsal for next year because this is likely going to be the only amount of snaps he was going to get for the season with us having Aaron Rodgers and Mason Rudolph ahead of him on the depth chart. So, yeah, when are we going to see Will Howard in 2025? If not for the preseason, now he's hurt, out 3 weeks, presumably going to miss these 3 preseason games. So that sucks. Big time bummer. Now we're just looking forward to seeing Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson sling it out there. Maybe Aaron Rodgers in like the last preseason game because I don't think he's expected to play in either of these first 2. And I don't want him to. I don't need to see any of these guys in terms of the veterans. I don't need to see Aaron Rodgers. I don't need to see Darius Slay. I don't need to see Jalen Ramsey. I don't need to see DK Metcalf, TJ Watt, Highsmith, Cam Hayward, Patrick Queen. I don't need to see any of these guys. Just be healthy for the regular season. I think it's much more worth knowing that those guys are going to be fully healthy week 1, maybe with a little bit of rust that they got to knock off in the first half of the game, than putting them out there in these preseason games and risking injury in these meaningless events that preseason games are. Now, not fully meaningless because there's something to be said for development and seeing who's the best fit for your roster, but I think you get what I'm saying, especially for those big name guys who have been there, done that, and this isn't their first rodeo. But anyone else, this is what I mean, outside of Will Howard, who is now getting you that excited to see this preseason? We're going to watch the games, but this might be the first boring preseason since the Big Ben era. Like, these last 3 or 4 preseasons have been exciting, but I've said if your preseason's exciting, that's probably not the best thing for regular season games and games that matter and playoffs and stuff like that. Because typically, if your preseason's exciting, you have some uncertainties in it at important positions, like for us, quarterback. Pickett, Mitch, competition, Russ hurt, Fields making an audition for the regular season. So preseason was exciting. You could probably check the views for some of these preseason games over the last 3 or 4 years, at least my reaction videos. Did pretty damn good. But now for this one, like, what's the major storyline? Will Howard would have been it. Could he be the future? Could he potentially hold off the Steelers from making an early draft pick by absolutely balling out in the preseason? Now, it was doubtful, but it was worth tuning in for and getting excited about. Outside of Will Howard, I had a number 1 as like most hyped guy to watch this preseason. Unless you guys could give me a different number 1. I think that was clear cut. Now you just got, I have a list of 5 other guys. Broderick Jones, Rock Taylor, Caleb Johnson, Roman Wilson, Jack Sawyer. You see what I mean? That doesn't exactly move the needle like seeing Will Howard. And also, too, the fact that maybe he was competing for Mason Rudolph for that backup spot. Like, that's another little side story of seeing Will Howard out there. Not only do we see him make a dress rehearsal, potentially showcase his skills for the future, but even for this year, if Rodgers goes down, could Will Howard be the next guy up? But we're not going to find out. We're definitely not. Mason's locked in at number 2, which I'm fine with. But the preseason storylines definitely take a hit with Will Howard being out. Broderick Jones, it's like we know he's going to be our starting left tackle, and we've known he's struggled in the offseason and the preseason in the past. It's just like eyes are going to be on him, and let's see if he can prove some of these training camp reports wrong. Rock Taylor's an interesting name because we went over our wide receiver depth chart yesterday, and if you got Scotty Miller and Robert Woods as your 3rd and 4th guy, who's to say Rock Taylor can't show out in the preseason and maybe beat one of them out for a roster spot? Caleb Johnson, we know he's a highly touted draft pick and most likely going to be getting a lot of snaps in the regular season, but I don't know, man. Like, what are we really going to see from Caleb Johnson that's going to change our opinion about him? I know he's a really good running back, and he should be getting a decent workload for this season and should have impact. If he has good preseason moments, it's okay. That's really not going to change my opinion. Maybe he just gets the ball earlier than we thought when the regular season comes around, or gets more snaps, gets a heavier workload in week 1, week 2, week 3, as opposed to maybe we slow play the Caleb Johnson experience. Roman Wilson, yeah, I'm excited to see him. Let's see if almost like Rock Taylor, but Roman Wilson's just a more high-profile player than Rock Taylor, trying to work his way up the depth chart and try to prove something and try to show that he could be a key cog in this offense. And yesterday, speaking of Roman Wilson, it seems like he took the depth chart spot, the wide receiver 5, I guess snub you could say, the snub where Scotty Miller and Robert Woods are ahead of him on the depth chart. He took that personally. He took the commentary on his status with the team personally and had himself a day. So shout out to Roman Wilson. Everyone's saying it was his best day yet. And his work came with Aaron Rodgers too. The guy that was throwing the passes was Aaron Rodgers, so that's important. Wasn't Skylar Thompson, wasn't Will Howard. Aaron Rodgers, in terms of building chemistry and rapport and carving out a role in the offense, he's the most important guy to be building a connection with, not the third or fourth stringer. So something to be said for that as well. He's got to keep it up. That's clear. Most obvious thing, right? But it's better to see and hear more of Roman Wilson doing good in training camp than the opposite.
Thanks, guys. It seemed like that connection between you and Aaron Rodgers has really been growing today. How do you feel like that's been developing through camp?
I'm just taking it step by step, day by day. I tell myself, don't get too high, don't get too low, just be consistent and just keep chipping away. So, you guys like to say showed up today, but, just come back tomorrow and try to repeat it.
Couple more things, though, for today's show before we get out of here. One thing on a very serious note and the other a little bit lighter. Let's start with the serious. There is more evidence and truth of the sabotage that has emerged. Big Ben, the man himself, that was sabotaged in 2021, his final season, talked on his podcast about what took place. We got it from a first-person perspective.
But I just remember we couldn't, offensively, we just couldn't do much. It was, for whatever reason, I don't know if we were overwhelmed going into it or what the deal was. But I just remember that we, we struggled early, I think, to get going, and they just never – they just stayed on the field. They kept converting third downs, and we couldn't. And it was it was what our offense was. We just couldn't – we didn't have that – the ability that last year to really, we had a line that, maybe was a little underprepared. Coaching staff that was probably a little underprepared to have us ready for stuff like that. Yeah. So that was tough.
The O-line was shitty, and the coaching staff had no clue what they were doing. That's how we took care of our franchise's best quarterback as he aged. That was our final send-off gift to Seven for all the great things that he did. Here's Matt Canada, and here's Kendrick Green at center, and Dan Moore as a rookie at left tackle. It really pisses me off, man. Big Deke News, I've been on this case from the start. I've been all over it. This is not really new information, but it hits even harder when you hear it from the man himself. He's got to be looking at this team, honestly, with Rodgers and how we built it around him and thinking, where was Omar Khan when I was playing? What the hell, bro?
What the hell, bro?
Last thing, and like I said, this is more on a lighter note. Steelers tight end Pat Freiermuth basically confirmed without explicitly saying it, and that is why GP couldn't work out here anymore. He said on SiriusXM's Moving the Chain show, Aaron Rodgers tells everyone run their routes like you're going to get the ball. I think it's been good because he expects details from everyone the same that he expects from himself. That's the cool part, is he holds us to a high standard, but he also holds himself to a high standard. It could have been an issue. Running routes as if you're going to catch the ball, even if you're not going to catch the ball. Wasn't Pickens' specialty. Now, I do have a little bit of a conspiracy theory here. After hearing this, as to why Pickens got traded later than probably we would have liked. Optimal scenario would have been before the draft. We could have used the draft pick on another receiver. I think we legit waited. So probably around that Pickens trade timeline. I think we waited until Rodgers gave us the firm answer that he was going to play there. Now, obviously, the announcement wasn't made in the media, but my guess is, this is my conspiracy theory, my guess is the Steelers got word from Rodgers, he's coming here, and Omar Khan, Tomlin said to themselves, okay, now that Rodgers is coming, this Pickens thing isn't going to work out. We know Pickens too well, and we know how Rodgers is going to want to run his offense and what he's going to want the receivers to do. This ain't it. Because if Rodgers wasn't going to come here, I think we would have kept Pickens because Pickens and Mason got a good connection. Like, if we ultimately would have rode with Mason this year, Pickens and Mason, end of 2023, man, that fed families. That was different. That was a combo. That was a duo. So I feel like if we would have traded Pickens, that would have been doing Mason and the team a disservice if Rodgers said he wasn't coming. So, I mean, there was probably always a chance, or the Steelers always had a good feeling that Rodgers was going to be here. They always felt like, it was likely to happen. But my guess is they wanted to really wait until Rodgers gave the absolute definitive answer that he was going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Like, just keep Pickens around in case, because Pickens-Mason combo, man, that was different. It felt like Pickens had respect for Mason. So I don't know how that would have played out with Rodgers, but if Rodgers was going to be hard on his receivers, if Rodgers was going to want the offense run a certain way, Steelers were probably like, we don't know how Pickens is going to operate and all this, so it's probably just going to be better to move off. The little conspiracy theory there. Might be a reach, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments on not only that, but everything else discussed on today's show. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay chilling. Peace.